the honor guard please post the colors? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Good evening. I'm Duluth City Council President Joel Cypress. On behalf of the entire City Council, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the annual State of the City Address. I would like to begin by acknowledging the elected officials with us this evening. We have members of the Duluth City Council, school board members from ISD 709, members of the St. Louis County Board, members of our state legislature, as well as Chairman Dupuy and Bruce Savage from the Fond du Lac Nation. Thank you for being here with us this evening. Thank you as well to all of our city staff and employees who are here this evening. We very much appreciate your service to the city and to the public. I would also like to acknowledge that in our audience, we have all sorts of community leaders. People active in civic organizations, in our many neighborhoods, in our business community, in our labor organizations, in our faith communities, and in citizen advocacy groups. We have a long tradition of civic involvement in Duluth, something that is more important than ever. And your participation in this event this evening is a reflection of that. We live in uncertain times. Many are frustrated by state and federal governments that seem unresponsive and that often seem incapable of even getting the people's business done. I am proud that here in Duluth, we have maintained our tradition of responsive, effective local government. I am proud to serve with fellow councilors who are responsive to the concerns of those that we represent, who listen to the many different voices we have in our community, and who work through the difficult challenges that we face with respect for each other and for those that we serve. Over the past year, the Duluth City Council has taken on a number of important challenges. We responded to the rapid spread of short-term rental properties by updating and tightening our vacation rental regulations, balancing the concerns of neighbors with the rights of property owners and the expectations of visitors to our community. We responded to the needs of the nearly half of Duluth workers who lack any paid sick leave by establishing an Earned Sick and Safe Time task force to study the issue and make recommendations for action. I am optimistic that this year the City Council will act to guarantee Earned Sick and Safe Time to Duluth workers. At a time that the state and federal governments have largely left cities like Duluth to fend for themselves, we have made the difficult decisions needed to meet our obligations to the public. We've continued to reduce the city's reliance on unfair mandatory fees to pay for basic public services like streets and streetlights. And working with Mayor Larson's administration, we raised the electrical franchise fee to a more realistic level, thereby bringing in new funds to help pay for the services residents expect and rely upon while shielding property taxpayers from the impact. We moved forward on economic development projects like Kenwood Village development and the North Shore Theater renovation, both of which are underway even as we speak, putting people to work in our community. We have come a long way from the days in which a billboard by the freeway asked the last one leaving Duluth to please turn out the lights. But we have many challenges in front of us. A shortage of quality, affordable housing, particularly for those in our community working at low-wage jobs. A substance abuse epidemic, particularly when it comes to the use of opioids. Growing economic inequities. While many of us live in relative comfort and can take full advantage of everything Duluth has to offer, there are many who struggle just to meet their daily needs. These challenges are not unique to Duluth. In fact, they are faced by communities across our country. Ideally, there would be strong leadership at the state and national level supporting communities as they address these issues. We don't, however, have the luxury of waiting for that state and national leadership. We need to take responsibility for addressing these issues right here and right now, here in Duluth. Tonight, Mayor Larson will be sharing with us her plans for addressing these challenges and sharing her vision for the future. I look forward to working with my council colleagues, with the public, and with Mayor Larson in the coming year as we continue to do the people's business. Thank you again for being here this evening. It is now my true pleasure to introduce Duluth Poet Laureate, Ellie Schoenfeld.
Thank you. I'm honored and happy to be here tonight, not just because it's an honor for me personally, which of course it is, but because of what it says about how this city views the arts in the community and the role that the arts play, and how this mayor values the contribution of arts to our community. This atmosphere of support for the arts is one of the very many things I love about living in Duluth. And I do love living in Duluth, even though sometimes, even now, even the weather, when it tries to kill us. No, that's not what we're talking about tonight. Oh, sorry. This poem that I'm going to read is from a collaborative project between poets and printmakers. I thought it would be fitting to read something that came out of a process that we're all engaged in one way or another, of trying to bring ourselves and our passions and our ideas and our best selves to the table to work on all of the differences and all of the similarities and all of our ideas about how to have a really beautiful community that includes everyone in our community and that moves forward in a beautiful way as we are. And here we are together in this time on the planet, in this particular spot in history. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. This poem is called Bellows, and it's after a print by Nick Robleski, which is called Bellows of Our Shared Breath. The clouds rise up, soft bellows of our shared breath, fan the flames of the earth's desires. Red passions burn where the sky strokes the horizon. Every morning, this consummation creates a new day into which every living thing breathes life. The clouds whisper the stories of everything. They hint at horses rearing and whales breaching, at the big picture, always shifting in time to the steady beat of the first prayer, an almost breathless yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellie. We are truly fortunate to have such a strong arts community here in Duluth. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Duluth, Emily Larson.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight. It is the first day of spring. It's happening out there, but here you are, and it's wonderful to be here. So before I begin my comments, I do just want to say a few things. First of all, thank you, Council President Cypress, for your words, for your leadership, for your hard work. And thank you for keeping us on task today and getting us started. I want to thank the rest of our colleagues on the City Council for your tremendous leadership and hard work and dedication to Duluth. This kind of event actually has a lot of details, and Paku Lee from the city attended to every single one of them, so thank you. Bronwyn Lipinski from my office jumped in about 1 million times as we needed her. Phil Jentz is our community relations officer. He makes literally everything better that he works on. Dave Montgomery will be speaking tonight. He is our chief administrative officer, providing tremendous leadership, playing a significant role in all the operations of the city and in everything that I'll be talking about tonight. And then a few people I want to welcome personally, my parents. 3 of my parents are here, Narita, Lee, and Pam. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for making the trip. And I have one more parent here in spirit, for sure. And then I also want to thank my husband, Doug Zahn, and our sons, Gabe and Eli. You give an enormous amount to this community in our own family time, in our own resources, and I'm really proud to be your mom. Being married to you is the best part of my life, Doug, so thank you. So we are in Lincoln Park, actually with purpose and on purpose, and I just want to share with you why we chose this location for this event, which really could be anywhere and historically has been held downtown. But we are here because this neighborhood has a lot of challenges to it. It is a neighborhood that has high levels of poverty, high rental property percentages. It has a lower life expectancy than other parts of this community. So if you live in this neighborhood, you will live 11 years less than neighbors who live over in Congdon. But this neighborhood is also powerful in what is happening, and actually one of the most exciting neighborhoods we have in the city. We are here at Lincoln Park Middle School, which is doing wonderful work staying connected to the community, and I think there will be some announcements about that in the future. Our commercial district that's here in Lincoln Park is growing by leaps and bounds. It seems like every month there's a new business or two or an expansion. In the next few weeks, the city will be making an announcement about a significant financial investment we will be making in the park, and that investment will be in partnership with our philanthropic community and our business communities. And finally, the DTA, who provided transportation with us tonight, has applied for a grant from Minnesota Department of Transportation to finally make sure that this campus, this beautiful campus up here, stays connected to the community with a pilot program to provide transportation. So we are here tonight on purpose because this is an example, a positive, powerful example of what happens when we as a community decide we're going to put our time and our energy into growing something and making something good. So with that, let's begin. We live in loud times. Look at the headlines, the tweets, nightly news shows and Facebook posts. The fear and anger and frustration is real. The stakes are high. Political debates have become more polarized, where it is more important to be loud than to listen, to be right rather than in relationship, to lash out rather than learn, or to be brash instead of bold. This past year, I have learned over and over that you can't calm the waters by thrashing around. So I want to begin tonight by reflecting on the quiet, meaningful ways the city is working and making progress and successes that matter. Each day, I hear incredible stories about the ways our team of committed public employees make Duluth safer and stronger. The extra steps they take to make each and every resident feel a bit more listened to, or cared for, or respected. They do this without headlines or any expectation of recognition or reward. The Duluth police officer who made time to sit down and talk with a young Boy Scout after he was randomly approached by a mother in the skywalk asking if he could help her son earn his law badge. The workers in park maintenance who patiently answered countless calls from agitated residents asking for debris pickup after the storm last summer. And one worker pitched in. She took 14 calls every half hour that last day, answering each one calmly and courteously. 2 city workers who quietly go to Enger Tower, sometimes trudging through the snow and often after hours, to hook up their laptops and manually change the lighting schedule to mark special occasions, like the night the tower went purple to honor Prince. The Public Works and Planning Department employees who worked feverishly with community partners and comfort systems one Friday afternoon this winter to make sure that a resident with 5 children didn't lose her heat and electricity because she wasn't able to pay her bills. I could go on because there are many more stories, and they often won't make the news, but they speak volumes to the quiet and steady ways city employees make Duluth better every single day. So thank you to our City of Duluth family for making a daily difference in people's lives. Now, I wouldn't describe my last year as a particularly quiet year, but it was a year focused on building foundations rather than making splashy headlines, because without getting fundamentals right, what we build just won't last. So I am a bit geeky proud of what we've accomplished. We've put together a top-notch administrative team with Police Chief Mike Tuskin, Fire Chief Denny Edwards, and Human Rights Officer Carl Crawford. 6 shootings in 4 weeks this past winter shook our community. Mike and his team of officers responded quickly, professionally, and compassionately. They've made 10 arrests for these shootings and are aggressively pursuing leads to bring each incident to conclusion. Denny and his crew of firefighters have responded courageously to public safety events across the city and are building relationships with other departments and regional agencies, bringing a spirit of cooperation to providing emergency response and public safety. Carl has thrown himself into the work of making sure every resident of Duluth is valued and heard. He's attended dozens of events and has had literally hundreds of conversations, quiet conversations, which often begin with one simple question: what can we do together to make things better? And last year, 6 City Hall staff, Duluth City Hall staff, attended a year-long program to find ways to make our city government a fairer, more inclusive place to work. They're now beginning to implement an ambitious plan to reshape city hiring practices across all departments, providing additional training for city employees to confront implicit bias around race and gender, and creating career pathways to make our city workforce more diverse. The past year has been busy in many other ways. We put the casino dispute with our Fond du Lac neighbors behind us, and we are forging a deeper relationship. We found new ways to partner with St. Louis County. Maurice's is finished, it's filled, it's humming, and although it does partially block my view, I am thankful every single day for their commitment to invest in the future of our city. The city's investment in redevelopment and local business expansion is paying off. 460 new apartments and homes built last year. The $10 million Cirrus expansion is complete. Over 30 new businesses which have opened in Duluth this past year. Construction is on track at the North Shore, and we're preparing for the Superior Street reconstruction. Based on community feedback from the western part of town, we have significantly increased our investment in parks and playgrounds where families can take their children to play. In working with the Duluth City Council, we addressed community concerns over our fee-based street system, and we passed a budget that changes the way we fund this core city service. Now, it's not enough yet to fix all of our failing streets, but it is a solid base, and we intend to build upon it. Later this year, when I present the next budget, you'll hear in much greater detail a plan for our streets. So there's more. But Duluth, let me just say that moving forward, we are on the front foot together. So last year, during the State of the City, I announced Imagine Duluth 2035, our comprehensive planning process. And I know planning, yes, I am going to talk about planning again. You can roll your eyes. But I also want to say that I couldn't be prouder of how this foundation building planning process has engaged the community. We promised we would do it differently, that the community would be involved, and wow, did you respond? So to date, we have held 125 meetings and received well over 5,000 surveys. 5,000 surveys. And yet we still got feedback that we'd missed some important people. Businesses reached out saying they felt they hadn't been contacted. Other community groups of people asked to be included. And I want to pause and just let that sink in. Because we're talking about people reaching out and asking to be a part of planning the future of this community. So we responded, and we went to those we had missed. And when we got it wrong, we worked, and we listened, and we worked until we finally got it right. One story in particular shows what has been different about this process. We presented our survey to people at Community Action and Health in All Policies, and they challenged us, saying the survey did not make sense to some residents, that the questions didn't feel relevant. So they helped rewrite them to make them more relevant. But that actually isn't the end. This group, many of them facing hardships of their own, took that survey and they went door to door talking with their neighbors in Lincoln Park and Central Hillside, and they collected over 600 additional surveys. They were not paid to do this. They simply cared. They understood that all voices matter and more voices need to be included and heard if we are to have a plan that is relevant to all neighbors across all neighborhoods. This story of not just complaining, but pitching in to help make us better, that captures what makes Duluth different. And this spirit is what we must vitally hold on to in these unsettling times, now more than ever. So we at the city, we don't know what we don't know until we're told. And luckily, I think you tell us. And that is Duluth. Our history is one of involvement. We can disagree, sometimes fiercely. We fight passionately for what we believe in. But in the end, we also recognize we're all in this together, that we as one community will rise or fall together. So people continue to write me letters, for which I'm deeply grateful. Sometimes these letters raise a concern. Sometimes they simply say, thank you. But more often, they share a story or a thought. Several weeks ago, a woman sent me a piece entitled, "We Were Made for These Times." And one quote in particular struck me. She wrote, "Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend that part of the world that is within our reach." I started tonight by saying we live in loud and troubling times. Many of us may feel angry or frustrated, impatient or frightened. And sometimes it is hard to know where to start when the problems seem so many and the issues seem so big. But this woman's letter, she reminds us that our task is not to try to fix the whole world at once, but to mend that part of the world that is within our reach. Duluth is still small enough to make a difference, and it's big enough to matter. We'll always have issues and ideas that divide us. That won't ever go away. But right now, I want to call us back to each other, to one community, joined together, pitching in and leading, making our part of the world better. And through our example, moving others to reach out and act. So, in that spirit, my vision for the city is to lead on 3 major priorities this year. 3 priorities which I believe we have in common and give us a shared purpose. Take hold of the opioid addiction and overdose epidemic, address our continued housing shortage, and build our energy and economic future. Now, these are big priorities. They are bigger than one mayor, they are bigger than one term, and they are even bigger than one city can solve alone. So my commitment is that we will start leading in each of these areas and together with you begin to mend this part of the world within our reach. So let's start with addressing the opioid epidemic. In the 1980s, Duluth pioneered a new response to domestic violence, which is now the most practiced model of domestic violence intervention in the country. There are lessons we can draw from this experience to battle a different kind of violence, that of opioid drug addiction. The use of opioid painkillers and heroin has reached a truly feverish pitch. More people die from opiates than from car crashes or gun homicides. This addiction, it destroys lives, it disrupts families, drives up crime, and it tears apart our community. Duluth and the surrounding area is not immune to these ravages. Heroin and opioid drug overdose deaths have more than doubled in the past few years. St. Louis County has the highest per capita rate of opioid-related drug overdose of any county in the state, including Hennepin and Ramsey counties. Over the past few years, police have done their part, targeting dealers and those who prey on addicts. Heroin-related drug arrests have increased 2.5 times. More dealers are being charged and sent to jail. More drugs are being confiscated. In the past year, we've doubled our drug confiscations. And likewise, local healthcare systems are collaborating to decrease the number of prescriptions and the quantity of opioids provided by doctors, as well as developing shared emergency room policies that help curb doctor shopping for painkillers. These efforts are key parts of the solution. But cutting off an addict's supply or arresting their dealer, it's not enough to solve the problem. Opioid drug abuse is an addiction, a health problem as much as a public safety problem. And until that cycle of addiction is disrupted, it will continue to get worse. For domestic violence, Duluth advocates, law enforcement, and healthcare professionals came together to disrupt that cycle of abuse. They got survivors away from their abuser, and they provided support and safe places to recover. For drug overdoses, these supportive, safe places for recovery do not exist unless you can wait weeks for treatment. When emergency responders are called to deal with a life-threatening overdose, they administer Narcan. They save a person's life, and then they take them to a local emergency room. There, the patient is monitored and, once out of danger, sent home, where the cycle of addiction usually just picks up again. And even if a patient is ready and willing to seek treatment, the tools and resources they need to break that cycle, they do not currently exist. So, our commitment as a city is to work with St. Louis County, the Center for Alcohol and Drug Treatment, the 6th Judicial Court, local hospitals, and other partners to create an opioid withdrawal unit, a safe place for those who overdose and want help to go, to medically withdraw, and to be connected seamlessly to other support and resources. This safe place and support system is the first step in disrupting that cycle of addiction. And in the meantime, we must also ensure that people do not fall through the cracks. Currently, the Duluth Police Department has a St. Louis County social worker embedded in the police force. It's an innovative and actually award-winning approach to community policing that recognizes the economic and social forces that also impact public safety. We will work with Chief Tuscan and his department to figure out ways they might help provide gap support for those in transition from the emergency room to longer-term resources. And finally, in partnership with Opioid Abuse Response Strategies, OARS, we will help sponsor a summit connecting experts, advocates, educators, and policymakers to identify and align around needed systems, education, and policy changes. These conversations have already started, but now is the time to bring it all together. So we make this commitment today to those suffering the abuse of opioid drug addiction, and to your loved ones and to your families, that we see you and we hear you, and we are not going to leave you behind. Our second priority is housing. Finding safe, decent, affordable housing continues to be a challenge for people in our community. This lack of preferred and affordable housing, it is disrupting families, it's hurting children, but it's also destabilizing our neighborhoods. It's also a barrier when we are recruiting businesses and working so hard to create good jobs. In 2014, a study coming out of the Duluth Housing Summit identified the need for 4,500 new housing units by 2020. A mix of market rate with moderate and low-income housing. Halfway to 2020, we are now confident we'll meet our market rate housing targets, which is great, because from Lakeside to Smithville, you've seen these new housing developments emerge. And private investment is picking up as Duluth increasingly becomes known as a vibrant, growing, and thriving community. We will continue to encourage and find ways to partner with those who want to build market rate housing here in Duluth. But for the rest of my term, we're going to put more focus and more resources into addressing the housing gap for Duluth households who earn less than $50,000 a year. That's literally 1/2 of Duluth. These are families that are working 1 or 2, maybe more jobs. They are young professionals who are burdened with debt. They are seniors who really want to stay in their neighborhoods, but they need housing options to be able to do so. Without our full attention to affordability, we will fall significantly short in meeting the housing needs of those moderate, lower-income working families, of seniors, of young professionals. Over the past year, the city has been assessing and shaping our housing priorities. As federal and state monies for affordable housing continue to shrink, Duluth needs to become more and more innovative in coming up with homegrown solutions. We need to think differently. The city can lead, and we will, but we will need to do this together as a whole community. In the remaining 3 years of my term, we will pursue the following housing priorities. We'll focus on housing options affordable to those earning less than $50,000 a year. We will create a $1 to $2 million housing fund as a 3-year pilot project to help cover cost gaps for new housing and for renovation and redevelopment projects. This new housing fund will target affordable owner-occupied housing. We'll focus on using tax forfeit parcels and renovate current condemned properties. And whenever possible, we're going to concentrate renovation and redevelopment in designated blocks and in targeted neighborhoods so that we can use these resources to stimulate additional investment and to maximize a strong ripple effect. With our business, our labor, and our community partners, we're going to encourage projects that include workforce development so that we can create career paths in the trades for low-income and underemployed residents of Duluth. We'll work with HRA to help move Harbor Highlands to completion, along with other targeted affordable housing projects. And finally, we'll be calling on businesses and our community partners so we can sit down, explore innovative ways to support the development of housing that is affordable for their growing workforce. These steps will not solve the entire housing shortage, but they are critical steps that we can take now, and we can start moving forward. Our third priority is building our energy and economic future. As a community, we face growing problems associated with polluting energy sources like coal. Every year, the city's heating and electricity costs increase faster than growth and inflation. And the forecast is that they'll only become pricier as coal and gas and oil become more expensive. 1 in 10 newborns on the North Shore have unhealthy levels of mercury, according to a recent study from the Minnesota Department of Health. And coal-fired power plants are the largest single contributor to mercury in our water, air, and fish. Catastrophic flooding, all-time warm winters, and other climate bizarreness that populate our daily conversations, they threaten our jobs, they threaten our economy, it threatens our forests, it threatens our tourism. And it totally, absolutely, and completely tears up our streets and our infrastructure. And yet, despite these indisputable impacts, the current talk in Washington, D.C. puts the United States as the only industrialized country in the world that still denies the scientific consensus and fact of climate change. So let me state unequivocally that here in Duluth, we believe that climate change is real. Now, we can't solve it alone, but we can begin mending that part of the world that we can reach. The city of Duluth is in the energy business. We are one of the largest consumers of energy in the region, and we own 2 utilities. Duluth Energy Systems, the coal-fired steam plant, which provides heat to most of downtown Duluth and Canal Park, and Comfort Systems, which provides most residents their water and gas. The city must boldly lead the transition to clean energy. Science tells us that to avoid the worst impact of climate change, we need to reduce polluting greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. Tonight, I am putting the city on the side of science and challenging us to meet this goal of 80% reduction by 2050. I'm setting a goal of a 15% reduction in municipal emissions for my first term, which is ambitious. But our times require it, and we can do it. It will require a new mindset, coordination across all city departments, and collaboration with local energy providers and strong community partners. We're going to rely on 3 strategies: conservation, transitioning to renewable energy, reducing emissions from our utilities. Our first strategy is conservation. Any energy savings plan needs to start with using less energy. And here we've already begun the transition to high-efficiency LED lights in our parks, streets, and parking ramps. They will provide better light and use far less electricity. 90% of the city's municipal buildings and building systems are at or nearing the end of their life cycle. And when we replace or renovate them, we need to build in the principle of energy efficiency. And we will. These are just a few ways we can save money and resources by simply wasting less. Our second strategy is transitioning to renewables. One of the fastest growing job sectors in the state is in clean energy, like solar and wind. The Duluth area alone has 1,600 clean energy jobs and growing. One of our economic advantages lies in this growing energy economy. Transitioning to renewable energy over the next 30 years, it just makes great economic sense. Investing in renewable energy creates new markets, new job opportunities, and if it's done right, it actually helps democratize renewable energy to make it more affordable and available to all Duluth residents. Community solar gardens present one important opportunity for city investment right here in Duluth. These gardens allow anyone who has an electric bill to go solar. They make solar affordable for renters, lower income residents, or really anyone who can't afford an expensive solar array. Minnesota Power, our local energy partner, is currently building out a community solar garden, and the city is intending to invest in it, to purchase reliable, renewable energy at a lower cost, and at the same time, encourage future solar development and economic expansion. We're also looking at other partnerships with local businesses. One recent example is with Enbridge, Minnesota Power, and Hunt Electric on a solar-powered electric car charging station in Canal Park. When completed, the city will own the charging station, and any extra solar electricity generated will actually offset the electricity used to light the lake walk. We need to work with the community and grow these types of partnerships, and working together with our local energy and utility partners, that will be critical in meeting this goal. Our third strategy is reducing emissions from our utilities. Downtown businesses have received reliable, cost-effective heat from Duluth's publicly owned plant since 1932. But energy concerns in 1932 are different than today, and the steam plant suffers the inefficiencies of age and the assumptions of a different era. One immediate improvement will come if Duluth secures its bonding request to replace the steam pipes under Superior Street. This investment will significantly increase the plant's efficiency and lower its polluting emissions by using less coal. Other options will include substituting cleaner natural gas for coal whenever possible. City government by itself will not solve the problem of climate change, but we can do our part and we can lead. And we can invite others in the community to partner with us and help build a future that is good for Duluth jobs and the health of our children and our natural world. So, in short, the past year has been a good one. It's also been a challenging one as we confront the realities of what we can accomplish, given how much we need to accomplish. But we've been methodically laying the foundations and building the trust we need to take on the big issues ahead of us. Mayors and cities, we are on the front line. Many of the biggest issues confronting our country. We see in very personal ways how they impact real people's lives and jobs, neighborhoods, and businesses. Our resources may be limited, but our commitment to this community and to each other, it knows no bounds. We have important work to do. In Duluth, we are ready-made for this time. We are being called to act. I am ready, and I know you are too. Each of the priorities I've laid out, they start here with us right now, working together locally, staying connected, and starting to mend this part of the world that we can reach. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know you're standing up because you're eager to get out in the nice weather, too. So thank you for staying with us just a few more minutes longer. I did speak just lightly about Dave Montgomery, how wonderful he is, our Chief Administrative Officer. Would you please join me up here now, Dave? And we're going to celebrate a special employee through the Dave Maddie Award.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I and all our coworkers are excited and ready to work with you to move this vision forward as we go through this next year. So I'm here to talk about the Clarence Maddie Award. There it is. Okay. The Maddie Award is given in honor of Clarence Maddie, a former Chief Administrative Officer who served under 5 Duluth mayors during his 22 years with the city from 1963, I was in first grade, until 1981. Clarence was someone who worked quietly in the background, ensuring Duluth's success and growth. We are proud to have members of his family here with us this evening. This award is given annually to a city employee who has demonstrated leadership, uses creative approaches to problem solving, and provided excellent customer service over their career working for the city of Duluth. In that light, I am very honored to tell you about this year's recipient. Lieutenant Brad Wick is a lifelong Duluth resident and West Ender who has served for 31 years as a dedicated member of the Duluth Police Department in many capacities, including patrol officer, patrol sergeant, canine officer, and as lieutenant, where he currently serves as the West Area Commander. Brad exemplifies excellence in demonstrated leadership, problem solving, and service to this community. His love and commitment to Duluth is inspiring. Brad has enjoyed tremendous success in each of the assignments over the years and received over 50 letters of commendation over his career in appreciation for his work. He was recognized as the 2012 Minnesota Police Officer of the Year and the 2012 Minnesota Chiefs of Police Association Officer of the Year for entering a home without regard to his own personal safety to save the residents from an armed assailant and engage the suspect at close quarters while under fire, preventing further harm to the victim. In 2015, Lieutenant Wick was awarded the President's Public Safety Officer Medal of Valor for that incident, which is the highest national award a public safety officer can receive at the White House by Vice President Joe Biden. Brad worked to bring police and the community together through his work in starting Kids, Cops, and Cars, a family-friendly community event sponsored by the police department. He brings his passion for community policing to the neighborhoods with these types of programs and through introducing neighborhood kids and residents to his canine partners. His goal is always about strengthening and building community ties with both the police and with themselves. While Brad has clearly displayed supreme acts of heroism in his career, it's his caring and compassionate community policing, his dedication to and involvement with his community after hours that makes him such an inspiring recipient of this year's Clarence Maddie Award. Brad's dedication and community service on the clock and after hours is something we admire and aspire for all our employees. It is for these reasons, and many more, that I am proud to present the 2017 Clarence Maddie Award to Lieutenant Brad Wick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am truly honored to receive this award tonight. And I am a little nervous, so I'll try to relax here. I have had many great opportunities to serve the citizens of Duluth throughout my career with the police department. I've also had the pleasure of working alongside many great city employees in other departments. I have truly considered myself lucky to have had this job, and although I'm excited for the future, I will always look back fondly on my years spent serving the people of Duluth. As I leave, I can confidently say that I am leaving behind a whole slew of police officers that care about our city. Officers who work tirelessly to make it a better place for all the citizens to live. You are in good hands. Thank you again for this honor.
Well, that was nice. That was a nice ending. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for choosing to spend this beautiful night indoors. It was a wonderful, special time to be all together. Please join us. We have a reception out in the lobby, and stop and say hello. So thank you. We look forward to getting a lot of good work done with you in the community this year. Thank you.